The second step in the PAMF participant cycle is monitoring a management unit. Monitoring is an important element of PAMF, and as a PAMF participant, you agree to monitor once per year in July. You are asked to follow a standardized monitoring protocol within each management unit enrolled in PAMF, making sure to upload the data you collect to the Web Hub by August 1st so it can be used to inform the management guidance you receive in mid-August. We recommend monitoring 1 month after implementing any management action during the growing season, which typically means data should be collected in mid to late July. The goal with monitoring is to accurately capture the state of Phragmites infestation within your management unit so that PAMF's predictive model can give you the most relevant management guidance. Monitoring is covered in Chapter 2 of the PAMF Participant Guide. There are a few pieces of equipment you'll need in order to monitor: a printed field sheet and a pencil, a GPS device, a 1/4 meter squared quadrat, and vernier calipers. All of the monitoring supplies you need, minus the GPS-capable device, are included in the PAMF kit that is available for free to all participants upon request. To request a PAMF kit, just send an email with your mailing address to pamf@glc.org. Data can also be entered in the field on a wireless device. However, there's no way to save on the mobile version of the website, so if you don't think you're going to have consistent cellular coverage, it will be best to record your data on a printed data sheet and enter it on the Web Hub at a later time. In order to monitor, you'll need to become familiar with the field sheet, a customized version of which can be printed from the Web Hub. Monitoring is done in 2 stages. First, look at the management unit as a whole and observe the percent establishment and see whether Phragmites has spread outside of your management unit boundaries. Then collect data on the stem count, stem diameter, and check for signs of stress within the quadrats at 5 different monitoring locations. To determine percent establishment, look at your management unit as a whole and estimate the extent to which live Phragmites exist throughout. Response options are 0 to 10%, 11 to 50%, and 51 to 100%. Although these categories might seem random, they were determined by the PAMF's technical working group. And they did so through an exercise that involved identifying important threshold levels of infestation. For this part of the data collection, the stem density doesn't matter. We're only interested in the percent of land on which Phragmites grows on your management unit. The image on the left shows 2 management units, both which have 51 to 100% establishment, because Phragmites is present throughout the majority of both units, even though their stem density is quite different. Once you have determined the percent establishment, look around the borders of your management unit. Has there been any spread of Phragmites outside of those boundaries? The amount of Phragmites inside your management unit may diminish due to management activities, but if it's expanding beyond the boundaries of your management unit, we'd like to know. The image above shows Phragmites biomass on the ground within the management unit after having been treated. But if Phragmites occurs immediately outside the management unit boundaries where it hasn't been present before, as shown in the photo, that would be considered spread and should be noted on the monitoring form. This question about spread is only required for participants after the first year of management. If you don't recall where the boundaries of your management unit are, we suggest downloading your GPX file from the Web Hub and using your GPS device to retrace the steps. Next, you'll go to the individual monitoring locations within your management unit. Monitoring locations are the spots at which you will place the quadrat and perform the standardized monitoring protocol. When you enroll a management unit on the PAMF Web Hub, you answer questions to help inform the position of the monitoring transect based on gradients and the geometry of your unit. The Web Hub gives 5 randomly generated monitoring locations each year, and that's going to be the locations and where you place the transects. You can see them as the red pins in the image. We call these the Web Hub established locations. Be sure to take note of these coordinates on your printed form or have them ready to view on your wireless device before going out into the field, because at your management unit, you'll use your GPS device to navigate to each location. If one of the suggested monitoring locations doesn't contain live Phragmites or is for some reason outside of your management unit boundaries, or if you lose signal on your GPS device and you can't navigate to the Web Hub provided locations, please use the Participant Established Monitoring Locations flowchart, which is available on the PAMF Web Hub to navigate to new random monitoring locations. As you approach one of the 5 monitoring locations, you will need to decide where to place the quadrat. The monitoring locations are randomly generated, but there's still the potential for bias if participants are intentionally selecting the best looking Phragmites stems to place the quadrats around. So to avoid any potential bias, we've established protocols on placing the quadrat. As you approach the monitoring location, have your quadrat built on 3 sides. If you build the 4th side too soon, you won't be able to get it over the top of the Phragmites stems. When you've arrived at your monitoring location, toss the quadrat into the Phragmites immediately in front of you while you're facing the same direction you did as you approached. The quadrat is unlikely to fall nicely to the ground, so instead move it to the ground and add the 4th side. Once you pull out any Phragmites stems that aren't rooted within the quadrat, you're ready to take your measurements. For stem count, set up your quadrat at one of your monitoring locations and count all of the live Phragmites stems within the quadrat. Be sure to look out and avoid any potential lookalike species and count only the live Phragmites stems. Also avoid any dead stems from previous years. If you have a really high stem count, so 60 or more, there's a chance that you might have counted some non-Phragmites stems. It's always best practice to do a second count or to have 2 people count at each quadrat. Generally, you'll probably find 8 to 15 live stems in a well-established stand with lots of standing dead biomass, but there's lots of variation, and even if you get a high stem count, it doesn't mean you've necessarily done something wrong. Next, measure the stem diameter at that same location, so don't move the quadrat. Take 3 stem diameter measurements from each quadrat using the vernier calipers. In another attempt to avoid bias, we have some guidelines on how to select which stems to measure. When you build the quadrat, you'll notice that there are 2 black corners and 2 white corners. Build the quadrat so that those corners are opposite one another. When selecting 3 stems to measure, choose the stems closest to each of the opposite black corners, and then the stem that's closest to the middle. It's unlikely that the Phragmites is going to grow really nice and uniform throughout the management unit, so just do your best to figure out which stems are closest to the corners and closest to the middle. This is going to help you avoid any potential bias. If there are less than 3 stems in the quadrat, you only need to measure the 1 or 2 stems that are present. To measure a stem, grip the stem with the lower grip of the calipers as close to the soil as possible. To read the calipers, find the last number on the main scale before the 0 hash mark on the vernier calipers. Record the main scale's number as the stem diameter in millimeters. Additional instructions for how to use the vernier calipers can be found in the appendix of the PAMF participant guide. So you can see the 0 hash mark is lining up with the 12, so the stem diameter on the screen is 12 millimeters. Lastly, within your quadrat, before you move it, look for any signs of stress that are not caused by your management actions. This would include environmental stress, such as things like wind damage, as seen in the image on the left, pathogen or fungal stress, which can appear as dark spots along the leaves, like the image in the middle, or stress from insects, such as clear signs of herbivory on the leaves, as shown as in the image on the right. If you think your Phragmites is stressed, but you're unsure, you can select uncertain on the web hub and upload a picture, and we can make that determination for you. Take pictures of your management unit just beyond signs of stress, and that will help you keep track of where the boundaries are relative to the change in vegetation. After completing those steps, you've successfully monitored your management unit. For the average management unit, it will take around 1 to 2 hours to monitor, depending on the size and the time it takes to walk between those 5 monitoring locations. I wanted to spend a minute and walk through one of the most frequently asked questions of monitoring. Why does every quadrat need Phragmites? So situations arise during monitoring where quadrats don't have any live Phragmites stems in them. In this case, we don't want you to report zeros if there are other locations within the management unit that have live stems that can be measured. In the management unit image, 2 out of 3 of the monitoring locations has live Phragmites stems. However, instead of reporting zeros for monitoring location C, it should be moved to another location where live stems are growing and that doesn't overlap with one of the other 2 quadrats. So let's explore this question a little bit further, because I'm sure some of you are now asking, aren't I creating bias by moving my quadrat to a new location within the management unit if there's no Phragmites growing at my Web Hub established monitoring locations? So to help answer those questions, I want to walk through a quick scenario. Imagine this is your management unit and that the yellow coloring represents live Phragmites stems. You have observed that your Phragmites, that your management unit has 51 to 100% establishment of Phragmites. So most of it's established. The first year you monitor, all of the monitoring locations fall nicely within the live Phragmites stems. But you continue on with PAMF, and you have a really great, successful year, your treatment's effective, and the amount of Phragmites in your management unit begins to decline. So next July, you come back and you monitor, and you only have a couple of patchy stands of Phragmites left in your unit. This is great news because this is the goal. We don't want Phragmites. We want to get rid of it from your unit, but now your new set of monitoring locations doesn't fall within the live Phragmites stems that are left. Instead of reporting zeros for the 3 monitoring locations that are outside of the Phragmites patches, you would need to establish new random locations for those 3 quadrats using the participant established guide that's available on the Web Hub. Now, all 5 of your quadrats have live Phragmites stems. To understand why you're not biasing your monitoring data, you need to understand the distinction between percent establishment and stem density, which are the 2 measures that the model is looking at to understand the Phragmites infestation within your unit. By assessing the percent establishment, you are telling the model how much of your management unit is infested. The quadrat measurements are then looking to describe the health of the remaining Phragmites. So by leaving quadrat measurements blank, you would be giving the model less information to work with. Percent establishment is telling us how much, and the stem density is describing the health. So those 2 are different. Zeros are acceptable for stem density or for stem counts when there are so few Phragmites stems that you're not able to fit all 5 quadrats within your management unit without those quadrats overlapping. If you do need to establish your own monitoring locations, like I've mentioned, there's a resource available on the PAMF Web Hub. You can establish your own locations by following the instructions on the Participant Established Monitoring Locations Guide. This document gives you step-by-step instructions that will help you navigate to new random selected locations. So as a reminder, monitoring occurs annually in July, and all reports, including your monitoring report, are due each year by August 1st. You're able to request a PAMF kit by emailing the PAMF coordinator at pamf@glc.org. Monitoring data that you collect is used by the PAMF model to understand the invasion status. Thus, it's important to ensure that all of your monitoring locations have live Phragmites stems. Monitoring isn't always easy, and we know this. We've done it, but we have resources available on the PAMF Web Hub to help. And of course, the PAMF staff is always available to answer questions and provide support.